Okay, then, Kimberly, do we have some questions or comments queued up to bring somebody on?
Not really here. We have a lot of people listening in. Not on the really on topic. There's stuff on Keshi and.
Okay.
I don't know if
this sometimes can be such a riveting and challenging conversation. People are probably still processing a lot. So maybe we'll just move on and we'll see if questions do come in on that. I want to mention, while we're still on solutions, that anybody in my network knows that no matter what issue I'm talking about, when it gets to solutions, sooner or later, it comes, from my perspective, it comes back to what we call the liberty perspective. And that's the manifestation of the non-aggression principle, where no one's allowed to either violate, to injure, steal from, or commit fraud against another individual except in true self-defense. And I just want to point out how this issue as well, if the medical establishment was not subsidized and protected by the government, which is run by the big corporations and the banks and the secret societies, they wouldn't have the power to get away with this type of thing. And there would be plenty of money to go to hire the investigators to find out who's doing this and then hold them personally liable, not protected by the government, not protected by corporate liability. So in a truly free society, which I think we're moving toward, but with excruciating slowness, there would be an alignment of the patient's needs, the doctor's needs, and the health insurer's needs, where doctors would get, paid to keep patients healthy, and where insurance companies would be inspired to as well keep the patient healthy and not put up with these companies that repress solutions to these diseases, which are killing millions of people. So once again, if we come back to actually unleashing the creativity through allowing people to do what they're doing, as long as they're not violating anyone, and so that they're not completely restricted by overburdensome licensing or put out of business by state subsidies to the big pharma and that sort of stuff, or overburdensome regulation, then all of this stuff will have a chance to come out, and I think we'll see a tsunami of health and prosperity and creativity unleashed. So speaking of creativity, let's go on to our last topic of discussion, which is this what Goa nicknamed in our discussion the other day as a team, co-creative couples thriving in treacherous times. So it's a unique opportunity we have here to talk to another couple, both of whom are taking on very serious issues in very effective ways. And whenever you're taking on a serious issue, especially if you've got serious solutions, then there are going to be risks, there are going to be challenges. So I would love to just ask Aaron and Joe to comment on the blessings and the challenges of being a couple. I don't know to what extent you work on the same projects, but I know you're in the same area, and I know you can't help but talk to each other and learn from each other, related to whatever it is you're doing individually. So I'd love to hear about the blessings and challenges of being in a couple relating to this type of topic.
I can start, unless Joe, you wanted to.
No, you're free. Feel free to start.
Thanks, honey. Well, I think that Joe's been an inspiration, even before we met, where I jokingly say I manifested him, where he contacted me about my health retreats, not knowing I'd followed him for years, which is another wonderful story. But I'd been following him, and he's been a real inspiration. I was fortunate enough to kind of help, just kind of almost like a hobby at the beginning when we met, and then we were traveling, and I stopped doing those health retreats because of that. that I would help do a little content submission and send in some articles. And you can't help but around Joe with his amazing energy, get kind of wrapped up in it and excited and passionate about, what he does. And I think it then inspired me to just kind of start my site. But I think he can also understand, having had this huge successful health site for so many years, how many hours the last 2 years, especially since the deaths, doctor deaths, that I've been working, because things did grow. It was because of a tragedy that they grew on the site, but yeah, he's been very, very supportive and just wonderful. And I think because it is a depressing subject, there was a point where I felt pretty down during all this, and he definitely helped kind of keep me sane and inspire me during that time and encourage and support me. So.
Okay, good. Thank you. And Joe?
Well, it's been a great blessing to be connected with Erin. She balances me out in so many ways. I think it's the key thing, because I tend to focus. We have a highly complementary set of characteristics. And one of the ways that someone watching this can find out how to interact with your partner, spouse, or business associates is there's a really good tool called Strength Finders. I think it's one word, but you could just type it into Google and find it. And it's a test that you can take online. And it will give it takes about maybe half hour, 45 minutes to complete. And then it gives you an assessment as to what your strengths are. It really focuses on strengths. And then we hired a coach to walk us through that and really help us understand. It's really interesting when we did the analysis, because I'm a passionate learner. I mean, my coach never really found anyone that was as passionate about learning as I am. That's important for Erin, but she's a relational person. So that's why I think really people are so inspired to connect with her. And she's just, she's able to really connect with people in a profoundly deep way. So, it's great that we know that, and we understand that. We've got our challenges, of course, like every couple, but it's just I'm just enormously grateful to have Erin in my life, because she really is an amazing balancing influence and provides a proper perspective, helps support, and she's just so forgiving, because I screw up all the time. I mean, regularly. I mean, it's just amazing how much I screw up, and she's just always so forgiving. I've never encountered anyone like her in my life. So,
I can really relate to everything that you're saying. Kimberly, any comments?
Oh, well, geez, it's been so fabulous. I mean, I think it's for me, it's this dance always of the union and the autonomy, because same for us, we have really complementary skills. And I've known as a producer from way back, the best way to build a team is to pick people with really diverse skill sets, because you don't need people who are doing the same thing. You need people who aren't, so that you can really mirror and reflect back to one another and just cover that much more ground. So, I feel like that, and just like really, we're just super honest. I feel like that's it about what's truly going on at any given time, so that we can really help each other. And I think, the shared values and a shared basic worldview and a commitment to curiosity, and bringing that curiosity, even just if something doesn't feel right. It's like, so what's going on? Instead of jumping to some conclusion about it. And I have to say, I am so grateful. Like, I think it would be really challenging to do this work without a partner who shares the common understanding of what's really going on. And we've met a lot of people in the network whose partners aren't alongside them in this awakening process, and so that would be a whole other path that I admire, and I'm grateful that it's not mine at this time, because having Foster and also just kind of dealing with each other's quirks in this whole thing, I can talk about anything at night as long as it doesn't sound like it might lead to a task for me in the morning, because I'm like the producer gal here, so I was like, oh, I don't want to think about anything like that. But I can talk about, so where's the global takeover at today? Like we can have those kind of conversations instead. And Foster wakes up kind of quiet and philosophical, and I start the day going, okay, so, jump right in. And so as long, we just learned each other's ways on the timing and what's unique to each of us in what's particularly hard to handle or what isn't, because it's not all rational. Like, who knows what's going to have a particular effect at a given time, or what just sort of adds up to be like, I just really need my thing is every now and then I really need some aimless meandering. Like, we're so on task and so on it all the time. Like, just, okay, create the space to just really allow my intuition and my feeling and just, sweet time with my grandkids or whatever it is to happen also. So, and to me, that just comes from, remembering that in the beginning and in the end, it's a relationship with ourselves that we're really talking about. Because if I can reflect honestly where I'm at, then I'm confident that Foster will respond compassionately in the same for me with him. So, yeah, I guess that's...
Yeah, speaking of the relationship, I know when Kimberly and I set out to make Thrive, we knew it was going to be a big task. We didn't have any idea how big, thank goodness, because it was an 8-year labor of love. But we sat down and we made 2 agreements. And the first one was that the relationship would always come first, that the artistic tension, the deadlines, none of that would ever be justified in precluding the quality of our relationship. And that was really helpful to have as our true north. And the second one was that since we had literally over 1 million decisions to make together, that neither of us would ever get sold out on the decision. So we agreed that we wouldn't stop in the process of making the movie till neither of us had a cringe factor. And we do the same thing now on when we put out, a blog or a post on social media or something like that. We don't put it out until each of us feels like, okay, yes, that sufficiently represents me. So for those of you who are out there challenged by co-creative relationships, if you haven't looked at those 2 agreements, I highly recommend them. The other thing I've really noticed in being in relationship with Kimberly so intimately during such an endeavor is how critical open-mindedness is. I mean, people's worldview matters tremendously because it shapes your action. And fortunately, Kimberly's and my worldview are so similar that it really helps us be more easily aligned on things. But worldview is like a snapshot. It's the quality of maintaining open-mindedness that I think is the critical aspect in having your best friend also be your most intimate work colleague. Because particularly in the type of thing that we work on, and I know this must be true for Joe and Aaron as well, there's so many mind-blowing things that come down the pike that it's important to be able to just have a conversation about them with your loved one and to be able to try it on without buying it. And we find that not only with each other, but with our team and the people in our network, that there's all kinds of intelligence. But these days, open-mindedness may be the most important one of all, when combined with enough discernment to find out, what's true and then ground it in useful action. Another thing that I find is really helpful in having a partner like Kimberly in these things is that we find that we kind of take turns, or hopefully do, in terms of finding out who's really up for a particular task. If someone tries to trash us on social media and we see it, one of us is more apt to have a strong reaction than the other, and it's like, okay, you take it, I'm not ready. Or if one of us does a public communication that we're about to send out that just, it's like, okay, what you want to say is in there somewhere, but your reaction is is blurring it. Let's step back a minute and see how we can say this in such a way that people can hear it more effectively. I find I'm not just twice as smart and twice as effective with Kimberly as I would be on my own. There's a synergistic quality, not to mention the bringing in the feminine energy and wisdom. I think I'm at least 5 times as smart and effective out of being in relationship with her. So I'm forever grateful. Frankly, I don't know how I could do what I do if I couldn't be having the conversations that I have with someone that I love and trust so much. So I feel much blessed, and I wish it for everyone.
Thank you.